champion, welcome, Danny Batten.
Number one. You win.
Hey guys, I'm Sai, and welcome to Ace Podcast Nation, home of the Danny Batten Fight Show. This is episode number 35, and we are talking last night's UFC Fight Night with the main event of Derrick Lewis versus Aleksei. Another fun show from the UFC. They've got fair play. They've done a very good job during these last couple of months with no fans. It's been some exceptional cards, and even the cards which haven't been exceptional have been very, very good. We're going to have a little chat about the main event and the co-main event of Bellator from Friday, and any other bits of news which we may discuss. But joining me as ever, former Cage Warriors champion, UK MMA legend, none other than Mr. Daniel Batten. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm all good, Si. Yeah, I thought it was also a very good UFC. I had total agreement, really. They're putting on some great cards considering the circumstances that they're doing it under. And yeah, last night didn't disappoint either. Really enjoyed it.
Indeed. Again, you're on holiday still. 1 week to go. So
yeah, 1 week to go.
We appreciate you your time. But obviously next week is UFC 252, which is going to be an absolute belter. And we're hoping, we'll pull out a very special guest for next week. One way or the other, we'll get someone good.
Yeah.
But before we go into the kind of Bellator and UFC, a couple of little story bits I wanted to get your opinion on. Announced about an hour ago, the Zabit versus Yair Rodriguez fight on August 29th, which I was really looking forward to. Zabit is off, apparently. Zabit has announced he's shutting down his training camp and going back to Russia. Yeah, I'm very disappointed. Apparently, I think Yair Rodriguez had an ankle injury, but it seems like Zabit is not interested in an alternative opponent, which, I kind of get.
Yeah, it's fair enough, I suppose.
That would have been such a good fight as well. I hope they still do it. I hope they run it back. Magmed Sharapirov is his surname, but we'll go with Zabit. But he's such an exciting fighter. Yair Rodriguez is Yair Rodriguez, so that would have just been a belter of a fight.
At
this point, and we'll do our predictions for UFC 252 later for the main card to finish off the show. But actually, quite a quiet little week on the news front. Nothing too not as much news as what we would normally get. But I think that's probably because we're building up for the big one next week, so they're not really announcing loads of cards and this and that and the other. One thing which did catch my eye yesterday was Conor McGregor is engaged, by the way. Congratulations to Conor McGregor and Dee Devlin. But on Conor McGregor, Michael Chandler said after his lightweight victory, which we'll discuss in just a second, Bellator 243 on Friday, that he is now a free agent. His contract is up with Bellator, and he wants the Conor McGregor fight. What do you think about that?
I actually think it'd be quite an interesting match, to be honest. Chandler has got really good wrestling credentials especially in terms of his his MMA. He scores those takedowns, but he's well handy with his hands as well. Obviously from what we've seen on his recent Bellator performance as well. Possibly just brushing past his peak now. But I think a fight like Conor McGregor will bring the very best out of him.
Well, certainly, everyone wants the Conor McGregor fight. Let's face it. Look, my kind of worry is he's 34, is Michael Chandler. Do I think that Conor McGregor, even arguably not maybe as good as he once was, I wonder whether he's still a step too far for Michael Chandler. Like, don't get me wrong, I know Michael Chandler's beaten some huge names. He's beaten Eddie Alvarez, he's beaten Benson Henderson. Never been in the UFC, which is the top of the top. But he's a NCAA champion, Division 1 wrestling champion. He's Strike Force. He's been in Bellator. He's had championship reigns. He's no mug. I'm not saying that, but I wonder at his age now and where Conor is. If Conor's focused, obviously, I do wonder whether he's perhaps got what it takes to beat Conor McGregor. But it's just, I think it'd certainly be an interesting fight.
Yeah, I think the thing that will go against Chandler is the fact that he is willing to trade as well as shoot. And during those moments of trading, he could get caught by that razor sharp reflexes of Conor McGregor. I was telling you off air that I've met Chandler, and to me, you don't see him as tall as his stats say. It says he's 5'8", but I think he's 5'8", maybe on slight tiptoes. He's not a very big man. I think Conor McGregor's standing around about 5'9". I'd put Chandler in really 5'6", stretch 5'7" at most.
Yeah,
I really would. To me, Conor McGregor's by far the bigger guy out of the two, so that might seem good in terms of any kind of wrestling confrontation. I think it'll be a lot of effort to get Conor down and keep him down, and I think he's going to have to go through some flack to get Conor down. And as we've seen, Conor McGregor's just so dangerous in the striking. But it depends what Conor McGregor comes about, because he's not so frequent these days with his fight. He's not going to be the sharpest necessarily. I know you can't really even judge his last performance, although he got an emphatic, really fast win against someone really good. That's not cage time. And I don't know.
I do think one of the reasons why we haven't seen Conor McGregor during the last couple of months is because the UFC, there's no benefit to them to have, or there's no benefit to ESPN for the UFC to have Conor McGregor fight now, because, well, I say that ESPN wants him to fight because they want the pay-per-view buys to cover the fact that they've already paid the UFC for pay-per-view money. The UFC wants the gate money, but they're not worried about pay-per-view. So, I just think that they're not in a rush to have him fight. They're waiting until they can have people in the audience to a certain level. If we're getting to this time next year, then I'd expect him to fight. But I think there's a reason why there's not too much of a rush on the UFC's point to get him going.
Yeah, I mean, Dan has already said that he's not interested in seeing Conor McGregor fight this year. So, he keeps saying, I've seen him numerous times, keep reiterating that Conor McGregor's officially retired, so he's just not interested. But he also said, does he believe that Conor McGregor's retired in a permanent way? No, he doesn't believe that, and I don't think any of us believe that. We think it's a case that he will be showing his face again, but just for these odd matches here and there that he feels will create enough interest. And I think personally, I'd like to see that kind of matchup. Chandler is someone that I really respect. I really like his style. And I think they match up well together to create a really emphatic, exciting-looking fight. Although Chandler has probably got the the credentials in the wrestling to potentially smother Conor McGregor. Do I think he will do that? No, I don't. I think he'll want to beat Conor with some fireworks along with that wrestling. And I think it'd be a really good match, to be honest. I'd be interested in that match being put on, maybe for 2021.
Yeah, it's certainly been interesting. Well, another couple of little news bits. A couple of fighters talking about moving down a weight or moving up a weight. Darren Till said he's ready to go to welterweight once his middleweight run is over. He said he still wants to. He's got a few things he wants to do at middleweight first, but what he needs is to win at the moment.
That's right.
But ultimately, no. And Frankie Edgar has moved to bantamweight.
Oh wow!
He's going to be fighting Nunes, and I know a couple of Welshmen who would like the Frankie Edgar fight. I got to say, I think they spoke about it on our show, right? So they'd like that fight. So
isn't it strange in MMA of recent? With Jesse Aldo and people like that. As they get older, they seem to be going down weight brackets. In boxing, they scale up, don't they? I know there's a lot more weight divisions in boxing, but in boxing you generally get bigger and you blow up and you just fight heavier divisions each time in small increments, although they may be. In MMA, they seem to just be getting lighter and lighter as they get older. You wouldn't think that would be the normal means, the normal way.
It's a weird one, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, it keeps someone like Frankie Edgar in the mix. I do worry that he's maybe hanging around a little bit too long. Not to say that he still ain't capable. He's another fighter that I've really enjoyed watching over the years. Yeah, but being such a nice guy and doing so much for the small sport like he has, I just hate to see him fight on too long. It's something that I feel like BJ Penn did. There was absolutely no need for him to fight the length that he did and keep trying to come back.
Still going a couple of years ago, wasn't he?
That's it. Yeah, I think it's sad to see more than anything else. I think it's because you've seen it in boxing time and time again. You see boxers keep coming back and keep being successful when they do so as well. But I think MMA is a different thing. I think that the skill sets are so broad. There's so many ways to potentially lose. I think as you get older, there's so many potential ways to lose can show their head more often as you age. I think it's just a little harder to stay into. Not so much for the light heavyweight and heavyweight. You can see people go into their 40s, but very rarely you'll see that. And I think less and less as we progress. MMA is still evolving, but I think in those lighter weight divisions, the skill set is just so high now. I think once you start reaching your late 30s, you're really, really up against it. You'll get the oddity. You will get the, like Uriah Faber as an example. He's 41 years old, something like that now. But so obviously, he's in incredible shape. Obviously, he lived a very, very clean life, got great genetics, and that can sort of explain away why he's able to stay in for length of time and stay relevant as long as he has. But I do worry about Frankie. It would be interesting to see how he gets on. But if he starts taking losses down at that weight, I think it would be time for him to hang up his gloves. But let's not write him off yet, because if anyone can keep on going, it'd be Frankie.
Oh, yes. And finally, Ray Borg has been released from his UFC contract following his recent withdrawal from the fight. Obviously, former flyweight title challenger, been released from the promotion following his most recent fight withdrawal, as per MMA Fighting, who are very, very reliable. It comes just a week. He was forced to withdraw from his bout for the UFC Vegas 5, which was last weekend.
Shame.
The entire card was a bit of a disaster, with many fights being fallen. And he was one of the fighters, though, unfortunately, he's had a track record with failed weight cuts, missed walks to the octagon. Of course, he was forced out of a fight against Merab Dishveli back in June following another health scare. That was involving his son, so kind of understandable. But I think from a UFC point of view, I think it's probably there's been so many of these occurrences that they.
Yeah, I think once the fight becomes hard to deal with, you're setting yourself up to be cut.
Yeah, sad, but I wish him well, and I think he's still got something.
Great fighter.
Yeah, he said he'll retire if he ever misses weight again, but didn't happen. But we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Okay, so we had the Bellator card on Friday. We're just going to talk about the main event and the co-main event. So first up, we had the co-main was what was it? It was Matt Mitrione versus was it Tim Johnson? I forgot. Tim Johnson. Didn't last too long. 3 minutes 14 of the first round. Timothy Johnson won by TKO strikes, and I get the impression that Bellator didn't want the fight to come out this way, shall we say?
Yeah, quite possibly. But when they're at that sort of weight bracket, as we know, anything can happen. When they're that heavy, and there's two big dudes in there. But yeah, Mitrione didn't get going, did it? It was kind of a weird. I think the way that he fell down, he kind of got clipped, and their legs kind of got momentarily entangled, and he sort of got tripped back. I don't think there was any intention for him to trip him back in that way. I think it just happened, and it's a little unfortunate circumstances.
Sorry to interrupt you. So Mike Goldberg and whoever was the assistant commentator, they seem to be intimating that he fell because of a clash of heads. and that the referee should have then, because it was clash of heads, he should have stood them up, because it wasn't, a strike which took him down, meaning that, obviously Mitrione was on the floor, and he had been mounted. So because it was a head clash, they shouldn't, he basically said they should have stood them up.
No,
I was wondering about your kind of take on that.
No, I don't agree with that at all. I mean, if there's a clash of heads and a cut opens up and you've got to get the cut checked, that would be a way of, when the fight gets, told to carry on, you're starting back on the feet. But, just because you had a clash of the heads and one got knocked dizzy for it and go down, I mean, it was nothing intentional about it. No, I don't think they should have been stood up. I think that was all fine the way I saw it go. It was, I just don't think it was intended that he was taken down or knocked down intentionally. It was weird that the leg position just got entangled. He fell back off balance. You've got to remember, this is in the first number of seconds of the bout, so maybe there's little nerves still in the muscles, and couldn't correct himself and fell off balance. But the power of Johnson, once Mitrione was trying to escape, the power was just, it's brutal power.
He couldn't get out of it, could he?
No, he couldn't get out of the situation, and was getting woefully banged up. Good stoppage.
Yes.
I mean, well done to Johnson. I mean, you get put underneath against a big guy like that, being fresh, you're setting yourself up for a potential early night, and an early night is what happened for Mitrione.
Indeed it did. Next up then was the main event. Michael Chandler in his last fight for Bellator, or the last fight of his contract at least, versus Benson Henderson, who had been on a bit of a tear, hadn't lost, I think it was 6 fights, certainly hadn't been stopped. So what did you make of this one? Because I do not think they wanted the fighter who was leaving to be the one winning the fights, especially the way he did.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it had the potential to go the distance, this fight, with explosive moments. But it seems that Ben Henderson's getting a little long in the tooth also. It wasn't the biggest of shots, or it didn't appear to be, that led to the process of him being knocked out. And it was almost like a delayed knockout as well. He got hit with that cross hand. Sort of went down on all fours, looking, at least slightly coherent. Then there was a very minor little shot to the top of the head, and sort of like therefore went unconscious. But I think it was the first strike that landed. After I think it was a delayed response for the knockout. It was a strange way to go down. And Ben Henderson's initially showed to have a really good chin, but the guy is past his mid-30s now. And you've got to remember all those rounds that he would have done, and all those fights that he's been in, and he really has been into some wars. So, you just got to wonder whether maybe the chin's going a little bit now. But let's not take nothing away from Chandler. Chandler's got great wrestling. He can really bang with those hands because he has that wrestling confidence to go forward. And he connected, and he got the job done.
He certainly did. As we discussed, Mitch, as you get older, things become tougher. Your body, everything reacts differently, everything works differently, your chin gets weaker, it doesn't matter how skilled you are, it can be problematic. And, Henderson has shown he's got a great chin over the years. But
that's right, initially, though, it's a strategy that appeared to be going in play was the right sort of thing. He was really aiming at the body of Chandler, trying to really attack his gas tank to take away his explosivity. Then I think Ben Henderson's natural size may have seen him good, but he just didn't get that far. So that's a fight game for you.
Yeah, it was interesting, I'd say, because I don't think Bellator wanted the fighter who's leaving to be the fighter who's winning. You get what I mean? But
I absolutely agree. Yeah,
I wonder whether they may try and sign him up, especially very clever of him to win that fight and then call out Conor McGregor. So you're basically saying, UFC, come get me.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
First thing Bellator would do, I'd imagine, is offer him at least a 1 or 2 fight deal to kind of ward that off for the time being. Especially as he's just beaten one of your big your main guys. But I guess we'll see where that develops. Okay, so moving on to the UFC card, we had first and foremost The first fight of the night on the main card was really interesting and a very exciting finish. Beneil Dariush versus Scott Holtzman ended in 4 minutes and 38 of the first round with a spinning back fist.
Yeah. Yeah, well, kind of landed with the forearm, wasn't it? I think it was perhaps intended to be an elbow, but you know, when you spin like that, it could be a choice of elbow, forearm, or hand. It has sort of like three ranges to it. Yeah, and he threw it out there. If the guy pushes close, it could be land on the elbow. If the guy's medium range, it can land on the forearm. And if the guy tries to retract back from those spinning back fists, they can potentially be quite a long, fast attack. And it can land with the back fist. But this one looked like it landed more on the forearm than anything else. Look, I really thought Dariush would have been up against it in terms of his striking. We know him as a good grappler, and indeed it looked like he was, you know, trying to push that grappling range on Holtzman. Holtzman was so strong and so physical, and when Holtzman was striking at Dariush, you know, there was full intentions there, you know, with full power. But Dariush is coming quite developed with his striking skill set now, although he doesn't look, you know, hugely formal in terms of his stance and the way he holds his hands. His overall attacking potential now has become quite diverse and huge and unpredictable, and he's getting successes with it. He doesn't look the strongest guy in the world either, but he just seemed to have more pep about him with this match. Yeah, he just had some more explosivity. He threw up a really nice knee as well. And I think the knockout really was all prepped up with the previous successive strikes that were landing in the earlier part of that round. I just think that spinning back forearm that landed was just the bit that tipped it over the edge and was enough to put Holtzman on his arse. But Dariush really impressing me. He's got really good grappling. He's appearing to be having really hard to read striking. Yeah, he's got to be moving up the ranks now. Do we know what his rank is? Is it something that
I'll
checked
have
up?
now.
Because I'm kind of curious on who they might get matched up against now, because he's had a bit of a winning streak now.
Yeah, one thing I just want to ask you while I have a look at that is with the spinning back fist, can that be problematic do many guys get injuries? Because it feels like the amount of power that you put, if you catch your forearm or your elbow in a certain way on someone's head, it could very easily break your arm. Do you see like many guys causing themselves damage through those kind of attacks?
You've got to, you've got to practice it, and you've got to learn to land it right. And like I say, you can spin and do an elbow, which is becoming quite fashionable now because people are breaking off the fence from a potential engagement of wrestling, and they're backing out and doing a spinning back elbow. And then, of course, you've got that other range where you can elongate the arm slightly, land on the forearm. That's where problems could happen, where if you hit the side of the neck, you could hurt your own arm, hyperextend it potentially. But also, when people do a spinning back fist, if you actually land with the back of the fist, you're not landing with the strongest part of the hand. So, again, if you hit them on top of the skull or catch someone's elbow as you spin around, if they put their forearm elbow up and you engage their elbow with the back of your fist, it might not do so well. So when you have your hand padded up, although there is a bit of padding, and obviously you have the glove on the back of your hand, when you get your hands wrapped, predominantly they're wrapping up to support the wrist and the knuckles. It's not a normal part of the hand to land with. You'll hear people talking in terms of a hammer fist, which is about hitting with the hardly any padding, but it's with the bone, the solid bone of the wrist. But when you're hitting with the back of the hand, you really are landing with the thin, weakest part of the hand. So there is potential to damage your hand there. But it doesn't appear that we've seen those sort of injuries happen, though, with spinning back fists. Maybe because they don't land very often. Maybe if they start landing more frequent, it might show up some problematic issues. But yeah, initially, I think it's a really good strike. It's got good range on it. It's fast. It can be hard to read. I mean, look at success. We've seen huge success with Dariush. I'm just so impressed with Dariush. Perhaps I've underrated him a little bit in the past. But every time I've seemed to underrate him and think, because he just doesn't look as physical as a lot of the other guys, and doesn't look so formal with the way he holds his stance and striking format. But he gets the job done, and you can't take that away from him. He's looking pretty convincing of late.
Yeah, he's on a 4-fight win streak. Very comfortable, some big victories. So he's run one. So he beat Hernandez via TKO in the first round. He beat Moises by decision. Then he beat Dover via submission. Then he beat Camacho. Then he lost to Camacho via submission. Then he beat Closer via TKO. And then he beat Holtzman via TKO. Sorry, ignore me. He didn't lose to Camacho at all. He won because he's on four fight wins with him. So yeah, he's got submissions. He's got TKOs. He's got decisions. He's really shown a wide range of skill sets. That lightweight division is insane. Look, he's ranked number 14. So just above him, you've got Cerrone, Gregor Gillespie, Islam Makhachev, Kevin Lee, Al Iaquinta, Diego Ferreira, Paul Felder, Charles Oliveira, Dan Hooker, Conor McGregor, Tony Ferguson, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, and then Big Bad Khabib at the top.
Yeah.
It's an insane division.
I'd like to see what he can do against someone, just brushing that top 10. That would be kind of
maybe
interesting.
Kevin Lee or maybe a Ferreira, Paul Felder.
Yeah. I think that would be a good call. I think that'd be a good match for him. Yeah,
I quite fancy a Felder fight. I think that could be quite good. Next up, I apologise to these two ladies straight away for me butchering their names. Yana Kunitskaya versus Julia Lorenko. I'm quite proud of that. I won't be able to pronounce them that well.
I'm dreading this for the names, but
so we'll call them Yana and Julia for the sake of Danny's pronunciation.
I'm going to try with this. I'll try.
Yeah. Got to learn, mate. Got to learn. What did you make of this overall, and then take us into the first round as well, mate?
Yeah, it was I think you can kind of really put all three rounds together and just do highlighting differences with each of the rounds. But this was an absolute wrestle fest. Kunitskaya was demonstrating some great cage control. She was getting double under pummels, which normally limits you a little bit with your striking, but she was able to make space really cleverly with her knees. Whenever she was getting under pummeled, she was punching and throwing elbows, and she really, smothering the other girl. I was trying to say her name, Julia Lorenko. She was really smothering her. She just looked physically stronger. You see the muscles rippling in her shoulders. She also, I think that on the stats they were similar in height, but she just looked bigger all around to me. She was quite thick set in the upper thigh as well. She just seemed to manhandle her, excuse the pun using man, because they're obviously women, but she was manhandling a little bit against the fence. But I really liked the strategy of Stoliarenko. She started to use the strong pinning position to clamber up her opponent to try and set up a guillotine choke. So really quite creative, and actually looked like she could get her opponent in a little bit of trouble with that. But again, just the strength of Kunitskaya. I'm not saying that anywhere near how you said it. Bad. Yeah, Kunitskaya. She shrugged it off really well. And going into the second round, clearly this was her intention. She was getting successes there. She went straight to it again, started pressing the girl back, and then Solenko started looking to take it to the ground by actually jumping guard, which I actually think was a good call in that certain situation because she was getting so banged up and just losing the control of the rounds, because something they're showing up now is a percentage of control, whether it's regards the striking control, having the center of the cage, or pushing her up against the edge of the cage and having control in that way, or time on the mat control. And clearly she was losing a huge percentage of control time by having her back against the fence. So to try to open up some opportunities to win, she jumped guard, and at the end of that second round actually created an opportunity where a win was at the tip of her fingers. She started noosing up an armbar, and it looked quite dangerous. Clearly got some good hips on her. And once she tasted that, she started to try to go to her back again, and try and create some kind of submission attempts in that third round. But Kunitskaya was just so solid. She was so aware of the potential dangers. She really wasn't in any danger other than that armbar. everything thereafter, I think she just did a great job of smothering her opponent. And looks like quite a difficult sort of style to fight against when someone's just engaging all the time, not even wanting the takedown. I mean, it only went to the ground because Lorenko was jumping guard. Other than that, it wasn't going to the ground. She was just happy to pin her against the fence, work her knees, her short elbows, her chopping shots when she had their position. And it was for Lorenko to find a way out, and she couldn't, although she was trying, by hence jumping guard and things like that. She just couldn't find an answer to get around the problem. And other fighters are going to have to look at this and figure out what they're going to do to prevent her doing this to other opponents. In hindsight to this, I think Lorenko, what she should have been doing was, when she had her head off centre so it wasn't being pinned by the forehead, was to then drive her forehead in to try to put that double unders under pressure to either pummel herself or to create opportunities to turn off from the fence. I just felt like she was allowing Kunitskaya to pin the head position just too often, too long. Yeah. So quite often she was trying to punch with her head leant back behind her hips, so you ain't going to generate any power there. And in fact, I think she was open to be taken down, but I don't think Kunitskaya wanted to take down. She was just happy to hold on and pin her. I think this was a strategy. I think it was a game plan, and it was effective for all 3 rounds. And absolutely, she should have got the win, and she did get the win. And like I say, I'm kind of curious to see how her other opponents are going to address this issue if she's going to try to do that each fight now. Yeah, she's going to have to be. She's going to have to be ready to adjust, isn't she? If her opponents make the adjustments necessary to combat that, she needs to be ready to, to adjust her own game. We talk about fight IQ all the time, and being able to adjust during the fight, not just rely on your preparation and your training camp. You need to be able to change as you're going along. But ultimately, I thought she was very impressive. You don't get many fights as impressive as that without a finish, I've got to say. I thought she was really, really good. She controlled so many elements of the bout as well. A little criticism really for Lorenko. Am I saying this right? I'm terrible with this name. The one who was in the green. She come out in the second round trying to do a spinning kick. And got herself dumped down on her ass very, very quickly. I mean, this is just the worst thing you can do, because you're showing your back as you turn. If someone's trying to, wrestle screw you and not in terms of taking you down, the worst thing you can do is do a spinning technique, which is such a long delivery time from the time you launch your foot. Really not a good strategy. I think she would have been much better to come out in that second round and try to get a successful jab working and use footwork and evasion. Just make it so she ain't being clenched up for a little while, to get a little space, to take a little breath of fresh air. Start building off a jab. Try and get a jab to be successful. Start trying to set up a cross punch thereafter, and then start trying to do angle off hooks, etc., etc. And maybe once the clinch ensues, maybe threaten with a mid knee to stop the threat of that shoot and that entry. But she came up with a spinning kick. That was dreadful. So that was the only thing that was disastrous. But although she did really bad there, like I say, I was really impressed with her creativity to try to clamber up the actual opponent like a climbing frame to create an opportunity for a guillotine. I really like that. It's quite innovative. Quite impressed with that. I thought couldn't have said it better myself, mate. Okay, so the final scorecard for the fight was 30-26, 30-27, 30-27. Pretty one-sided. Absolutely. Next up, we had only one British fighter on the show tonight, which was seems like we've been treated to having numerous on the shows, which was kind of interesting. It was Mackie Patolo versus British fighter Darren Stewart, and boy oh boy did Darren Stewart do well. He did and he looks fantastic as well. I mean, just looking at those thighs on him and those shoulders and arms, I mean, this guy looks monstrously athletic and strong, really does. I mean, just his presence will make you want to footwork and back off, like Patolo was. He really respected the potential power of Darren Stewart, and so he should. But Patolo can strike well as well. I think he's a little looser, got slightly better footwork than Darren Stewart. But I'll put the overall power in Darren Stewart's favour. I was really surprised that Darren Stewart chose to press close and clinch up. It was around about the 3-minute mark. I was kind of surprised about that. I just think their striking combinations, maybe it just felt natural to clinch up to stop the combinations from firing back. But I was kind of surprised about that. I thought, hey, what's he going to do here? He's surely not going to attempt to take down or anything. But they disengaged, so that's what made me think that combination was just the fact that they both got close, and it was just the right time to have a little clinch up to diffuse the combination before breaking free again. Patolo did have a little success as he began to feel out his footwork. He started to land on Darren Stewart a little bit, and made Darren Stewart realise, hey, this guy can bang too. This guy's loose. He's got footwork. He's sharp. He could be really dangerous. But then Patolo, did what I thought would be the best thing to do, is try and put Darren Stewart down onto his back, try and tire him out. What those big muscles work hard. He shot in on the double. Darren Stewart did really, really well defending that. When he went to a single, he got the single and got the success of the takedown really way too easy. And I thought, Darren Stewart's going to have some issues here if he's going to get taken down so easy on a single like that. He really didn't fight his base very well at all. But as he went down for the single, maybe he dropped down wanting this submission. But as you do a single, quite often you put your head to the outside. And as he did so, he got his head noosed up. And we're still quite early in, a little past the halfway mark. Heading to the latter part of that first round, but they're both pretty fresh individuals still. And like I said, I was talking about the strength. All you have to do is have reasonable technique with that kind of strength and that kind of freshness behind you, having your neck caught up like that. Did you see how contorted the neck was? Because I was thinking, hey, he's going to get out of this, he's going to get round. But when I saw how deep he was really contorted. I mean, it's got to be close to a break. So well done for Darren Stewart. Really impressed me. And I still think there's some certain skill sets he needs to improve on.
He got caught a couple of times. He got caught with a spinning back fist. He got caught with a counter shot as well as they were separating.
As long as he keeps going to school and keeps learning and evolving with that physicality he's got, and the aggressive attitude to win, this guy could go far. Really could. I'd be excited to see this guy fight in the future. I think he's going to make some noises in this division if he carries on the way he is. But he's got to carry on developing first.
Keep improving.
Absolutely.
He's a big boy, isn't he?
Absolutely he is, yeah.
Impressive though, nonetheless.
Yeah.
And next up we had Omari Meadow versus veteran Chris Weidman. Chris Weidman came in saying he wanted to make up for what he called a sloppy performance in his recent fights. Did he achieve that?
I don't think we've seen Weidman look his best for a good number of years now, to be honest. Did we see a better Weidman than recently? Yes, I think we do. I think there's definitely still issues with his striking. He's not looking comfortable striking. So he went back to some of his wrestling roots, which I think is the right thing to do. I wasn't too sure whether it was the right thing to keep going on the single the way he did. He eventually got the successes he needed in that first round, but he had to work extremely hard to do so. So I definitely gave Weidman that first round. But like I say, he kept shooting on that single, and shooting on that single, there's so many potential counters, and it's so easy to anti-wrestle a single with a lead leg strip. So you saw him dive for that single, and you see Meadow strip back that leg. And he really only had the ankle to hold on to. It can lead to a takedown, don't get me wrong, but you've got to re-engage. So when you shoot in for a single and someone strips back and you've only got an ankle, you kind of got to chase back in, and you've got to hook in on the hips. It's a lot of explosivity. Weidman, being that it was the first round, was able to eventually get Meadow down and was able to take the round from him. But I think a huge deficit of his energy, because going into the second round, we see Meadow start doing his own shoots and start pressing Weidman with his own wrestling capabilities. And Weidman, I think, was still feeling the effects of that first round. And it looked like the tide was going to be turning. So, first round I gave to Weidman. The second round went to Meadow. And I think that was a great strategy change. Now, whether it's Meadow's natural intuition to, hey, I could feel this guy was tiring on that first round. They're shooting myself, or whether it is his cornerman doing it to suggest it to him. Nevertheless, this was a really good decision. It was a great strategy, and I was really pleased to see him make that adaptation. But going into this third round, it was all about who wanted it most. And I think Weidman had it in his head that he knew he had to perform. I mean, I think if he lost this, you've got to wonder whether he was going to see Weidman ever fight again. And I think he was...
the UFC, I think he might have been...
Exactly, yeah, exactly that. And I think that he just wanted it that little bit more. And was able to eventually grind down on Meadow. So kind of what happened to Weidman in that first round, he burnt so much energy trying to win that round, and indeed he did win the round. He was then at a deficit, and then Abidov reversed it on him, but again he had to work so hard to get his successes, and he was feeling the fatigue for that third round, so it was a little bit tit for tat as the rounds were going through. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great little wrestle match, very wrestle heavy. I really liked the way Weidman did one of his takedowns as well. He did hook in on a single high up on the knee, and he kicked the leg away. It goes to show that he was adapting his single leg entries. But as the match went through in that third round, he started getting successes shooting on the double high. So what I mean is, rather than shooting in doubles behind the knees where you can get sprawled and the knees go out, he was catching him a little higher on the thigh, and he started getting successes with that. I thought that was a great adaptation to do in the third round, because I thought shooting for the single like that was going to begin to foul more and more. And I think the percentage of the successes on that single was going to get him exhausted halfway through that third round and potentially, run himself through with exhaustion and get tired and lose the round. But he shot in on this high double, and started to put Akhmedov down. And he grinded out that third round. And like I say, I put it down to the fact that he just wanted it that little bit more. He knew this potentially would have been his last fight that he would have in the UFC had he not pushed as hard as he did in that third round. So well done to Weidman. It's great to see him on winning ways. Did I think he looked as best as he has done in the past? No, I don't. Do I think he looks better than he has done in the last few matches? Yes, I do. I still feel he's fragile in the striking. I feel like he's lost his confidence in the striking, and I think that needs to be addressed. As far as I'm aware, he's training now with Wonderboy Thompson, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So whether that will start making an influence in his game. But Wonderboy Thompson has a very unique style, and unique styles are very, very hard to emulate. So whether that's going to suit him to put the striking fragile state that I feel that he's in, whether that he's the right guy to go to or not, I don't know. Time will tell with that. But hey, Weidman won. I'm really happy that he won. I think it was a very difficult opponent to beat. He done well. Let's hope we see him come back on more winning ways and getting back to the old Weidman we know and love.
Yeah, I don't think the last we'll see of Akhmedov either.
No, this guy's dangerous. He can wrestle himself. We see that, and I think he had better striking than Weidman. I think he could have got Weidman in trouble. As much as Akhmedov did well in that second round to put the wrestling onto Weidman, I think that third round he should have come out trying to put the pressure for striking on Weidman. I think he should have come out banging, looking for the knees, looking for the uppercuts, footwork round, make the engagement for the wrestling really hard for Weidman. But he's confident in his own wrestling ability, and because he had success in that second round, I think he was happy to be engaged with the wrestling, but he actually went against him in the end. But I think Akhmedov could have perhaps turned this against Weidman had he thought to stay the striker in that third round.
Yeah, 100%. I think with Weidman, I do wonder if it's psychological, like the issues he's having with his striking. I just wonder whether it is a psychological after, because he took that really bad loss. I forget who he was against, and he took a bit of a pasting, and then he hasn't quite looked the same fighter since.
That's right.
And I do wonder whether, but then saying that in this, after that second round, I worried for him. And I thought, is he psychologically going to have enough to come back in this third round and, really to make sure he wins this fight? And then, he did. But it's strange to say, I wonder whether his issues are psychological. But equally, I thought he did very well from a psychological point of view in that third round also. So it's a bit of both.
Yeah. He had to dig deep. You saw it. You saw how tired he was getting. He dug deep and he pulled through. It's great to see he had the hunger and the desire to push through and get that win. And maybe his striking perhaps has lost a little bit of confidence, so he's gone back to some wrestling roots. that's exactly what you should do. You know, if you're not feeling comfortable in one area, the beauty of MMA is you can push it in another area. He did that, and he got his successes with it. But he's still at some point going to have to address those striking issues, because there's wrestlers out there that won't go to the ground, and there's some strikers out there with some fantastic footwork that are really elusive, and he won't be able to lock in on them time and time again, and he's going to have to rely on some striking confidence.
Yeah, I like you mentioned, I wonder if Weidman had lost this. I do wonder whether we'd have seen him in the UFC again.
Yeah.
And I still think he's on. It's clear he's on the kind of the downward slope in terms of the peak of his career and whatnot. But that's not to say that he still can offer a lot. I think as a fighter and as a UFC contender. I do doubt that we see him, at the very top ever again. But fight is a funny old game, and you never know.
It is. It is.
He could put forward what do I know? He could put forward go through a 3-fight win streak, be in the title picture, or fill in for someone who's injured, and before you know it,
yeah.
champion of the world.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, we could just think back just a few years ago, when he beat Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva was looking unbeatable, and he not only beat him once, he beat him twice. He's not quite the invincible Weidman as we started to think he was back then, as he is now, unfortunately. But hey, let's not write him off yet. He's just got a fantastic win against a very, very difficult opponent, and maybe this will be what sets off his confidence to get the old Weidman back.
Next up, then we had Derrick Lewis, which is the main event. Derrick Lewis ranked number 4 versus Aleksei Oleinik, ranked number 10. Again, this one didn't last long, with the Black Panther winning within 21 seconds of the second round. Cool.
Derrick Lewis is impressing me, though. He's improving his skill set every single time we see him come out with a huge head kick at the beginning, and I thought, okay, look, he's going to hunt for the knockout, but then clinched up with Oleinik, which really surprised me, because we know that I'm going to pronounce his name right, Oleinik. We know his arm triangles. He can set him up from standing, or set him up on the ground. This guy has got great catch wrestling style presence about him, and proper dangerous. But I was really surprised Derrick Lewis clinched up with him and ragged him to the ground, and was playing some half guard. Nearly got himself in trouble a couple of times. Now, Oleinik showed some great half guard positioning. He was getting the under pummel. He was coming deep under Derrick, and Derrick's a big old boy to come under, but he was doing the right type of thing to try to avoid that body weight coming up from the half guard the way he did. But Derrick showed some great scrambling. At a time when Oleinik was escaping the half guard the first time, you see some great movement from Derrick Lewis. Goes to show he really is putting some of his groundwork in and making improvements, and managed to keep that top half guard position a little longer than I first thought he would when it looked like it was slipping away from him. But Oleinik, real slick character, and he managed to get on top of Derrick Lewis and started going for the like scaffold. I can't think of the specific term for it, but it's a scaffold. It looks devastating. I think the fact that Derrick Lewis is so barreled and so thick-bodied, I think is what saved him, because a couple of times I thought this submission might be on, but he weathered the storm, and Oleinik's got to have burnt up some energy, because he was pulling up on that head and arm with full vigour for quite a long duration. But he's been showing really good cardio of late, and some of his fights that Oleinik's had, he's looked really clumsy with the striking and looked like to get exhausted. But he seems to have really addressed his cardio issues and looked really quite convincing at times in this first round. But Derrick Lewis showed some skill to escape, some abilities to stay in there when it looked really tight and it looked like that submission was going to go on. But no, he escaped time again. And then as we went into the second round, like you say, it didn't go on for very long. Derrick Lewis connects, puts him on his arse, and it was like watching Johnson and Mitrione with the ground and pound. The power, he just sensed it was an opportunity to win. And the power of the shots was absolutely devastating, and a really good stoppage as well, as refs are getting so much attention, particularly Herb Dean. Really good stoppage as well. Brilliant for Derrick Lewis.
Very good stuff.
Yeah, when you think Oleinik just beat recent, I think the fight beforehand he beat the Brazilian dude.
Yeah, I can't look because
top of my head.
Battery.
I'm terrible with bringing up names off at the top of my head. People will be aware watching it.
Yeah.
But he had a fantastic winner against him, so he's looking really, really convincing. But Derrick Lewis now, he's becoming ever more relevant. Who's he going to put up against next? He's got to be getting right up there.
Yeah, ranked number 4 before this fight. Obviously, you've got Stipe and DC fighting next week, so you never know who's going to come out of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't look at my rankings at the moment because I haven't got any batteries in my mouse run out. But Derrick Lewis was, I thought, about as impressive as he could have been. He really was.
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes to show he's confident to be on the ground because he took a grappler down there. I mean, you got to try to imagine what Oleinik was thinking going back to his corner. He was pulling up on that head and arm. Then he had a real deep figure of 4, and Derrick Lewis was just. He was just sitting through all of it. He wasn't necessarily doing the greatest movements to escape from these positions, but he was just in there. To put Derrick Lewis away, you have to proper put him away. And Oleinik went back to his corner. He was on his back, feet up against the fence. You got to wonder what he was thinking to himself. What do I have to do to win? But of course, that second round was very, very brief. I'm so excited for Derrick Lewis. I really am. I really like the guy. He's a good character for the sport, and he's obviously in the classroom a lot, and he's learning, and he's progressing. He's a huge man, clearly a smart individual because he's progressing so well in his development. He really has been learning on the job, so to speak, and he's right up there. Let's see him. Let's get him up to contender status. I'd love to see that.
I think. I just think he's one of the most improved guys. In all the divisions, he's really improved over the last couple of years. Like that.
I mean, he's just the athleticism as well. with that jumping knee.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
you wouldn't have seen
real
that
light away
before either, would you?
No way would have you. And and this is a long knee. This isn't like a tie clinch knee, which it takes a certain skill set to prep it up to be able to fire a knee up to someone's head in a clinch. This is like judging a long range jumping knee. That's not easy to do, and it led to the finish. So yeah, I'm so chuffed for him. I really am. I want to see him to contender status. I really do. I think he's one fight away from doing so.
Oh yeah, the heavyweight division's interesting at the moment because you've got obviously Stipe's fighting Cormier. Then underneath him, you've got Ngannou and Blades, and then you've got Derrick Lewis. I believe Ngannou's on a pretty decent streak, isn't he? After
another one that's been impressive.
So you've got Ngannou is facing he beat Rosenstruck. He beat Dos Santos. He beat Velasquez. So he's on a 1, 2, 3, 4, he's on a 5, 6 fight win streak. So since
that's impressive as well.
Ngannou lost to Miocic, then he beat Derrick Lewis. Derrick Lewis beat Ngannou in 2018. Since then, Ngannou destroyed Curtis Blades in 45 seconds, Cain Velasquez in 26 seconds, Santos in a minute. And then Rosenstruck in 20 seconds. So I'd say Ngannou's probably got the next shot. Although you could run Derrick Lewis versus Ngannou rematch, but Derrick Lewis had the initial victory. There's no reason whatsoever why you couldn't do that.
I think you can do that again because both of them have totally changed their skill sets in the meantime. They're both becoming much more well-rounded, and I think you could see a very different fight.
100%. And I'd like to see that fight. I've got to be honest.
Yeah, me too. I would like to see that go around.
Entertaining.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so just to finish off, we'll give our quick quick little previews of the UFC 252, which is next week. UFC 252 card. We will have a guest analysis joining us. Not 100% sure who it will be yet, but it will be someone good. It'll be someone who you all know. I can tell you that much. But we'll see how it goes, and we'll see who it is. Do some conversations and some stuff this week, and we'll see. But I know you're excited by the potential guest that I told you.
Yes, of course.
Show.
Yes.
And one thing I will say is, if I can get the person who I was speaking to today, which we're hoping to sort out, depending on his schedule, he's not shy. He's got plenty to say. So that would be cool. Okay, so we'll just do the main card, mate, which is quite the card. Jesus. I'm assuming some of those they must be brilliant fights, otherwise the main card is like 20 fights long. Okay, so the main event is Stipe versus DC. Who you got for that, mate?
Well, back along, I was saying Stipe, because I worry that Cormier is just getting a little too old for all this. But I've been listening to him talk, and I don't know, I think it amazes me how he motivates himself as much as he does. And I just think he's so motivated for this. I think maybe he's more motivated than Stipe. So I'm actually going to go Cormier. But this is about turning my previous thoughts. I was always going Stipe for a long while. But like I say, Cormier is the way he talks about the fight, and yeah, he wants to win this, you know. And yeah, I think that attitude is perhaps a stronger attitude than I'm sensing from Stipe. So I'm going to go Cormier.
So I've been leaning on DC. I just think DC, the romantic in me, wants to see him get the win.
My heart is with Cormier.
Just see him win, and then
love to go to bits. Yeah.
As much as however, if him winning means that he's going to then be talked into fighting John Jones, then I'd rather him lose to Stipe.
Yeah,
I don't want to see the John Jones fight again, simply because, as much as I would enjoy the fight and the spectacle of it, I don't think Daniel Cormier will win, and I think it'll break him to lose the third time to John Jones. I don't want to see that.
Yeah, so, if Cormier was 5 years junior, I would be all for it up again. But he's just getting. You just got you worry about the guy. I've said earlier, I worry about people staying it too long. He's already such a legend in the sport. There would be no need for him to do that again. I think if he beats Stipe, perhaps he should just therefore retire. But he talks with such passion. You've got to wonder whether he'll just stay in it. He seems to just love fighting.
Yeah, he loves it. I'm going to go with. Do I go with my head, or do I go with my heart? I'm going to go with Stipe. Go on, I'll go with Stipe.
So I think we both reversed our original opinions on this one. I think we both
so I
switched sides on it.
Wasn't I, initially?
Yeah.
And, you were not. Okay, and then next up we have Sean O'Malley, always a classic to watch, versus Marlon Vera, who's not shy yet.
I just think Sean O'Malley's going to stay unbeaten. I think he's going to do it.
He's a big boy. He's just entertainer. Just one of those guys, man, isn't he? Just an entertainer. And I can't see past Sean O'Malley. As much as I do rate Marlon Vera, I think he's
absolutely, very good,
talented guy. But Sean O'Malley is on the up and up, and I just
absolutely is.
I don't see Marlon Vera being the guy to beat him at the moment. Maybe there'll be a time where someone will beat Sean O'Malley, just not this week. Junior dos Santos, ranked number 5, versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik, ranked number 6 in the heavyweight division.
Yeah, I'm going to go Rozenstruik. I think Junior dos Santos is on the decline. And Rozenstruik he's just been convincing, you know. I just my head and heart go for him. I think this guy is going to go far.
Yeah, I do too. I gotta say, I thought Dos Santos and Cain Velasquez both looked absolutely finished in their fight versus Francis Ngannou. So I'm going to go with Rozenstruik there as well. Then we got John Dodson versus Merab Dishpali Billy. Billy, I can't say his name.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go John Dobson just because his name's easier to say. No, I'm actually going to go John Dobson's on this one, which might surprise a lot of people. I just think stylistically, he's going to enforce his way. I just think he's going to be too awkward, too many tricks up his sleeve. He's got good cardio, so it's not like cardio is going to be an issue. It's about getting the game plan right. About just hitting the right type of combinations, and he's got real diverse combinations. He can strike well, he can wrestle very, very well. I think he's going to be just too slippery.
Fair enough. I'm going to go with Merab. He's on the up and up, and he's been really impressed me. Really impressed me. So I'm going to go with him there. Magmed Ankalaev versus John Kudlaba.
Yeah, we got to go Ankalaev for this one.
Oh yeah. Jim Miller versus Vince Piche.
I'm going to go Jim Miller.
Yeah, I'll go with Jim Miller there as well.
He keeps hanging in there. He does well. It amazes me.
Yeah, and that's it really for the main fights. Okay, guys, we've got loads of podcasts out this week. Did seven shows in 7 days from last Saturday through to next Saturday. So there's a variety of shows. We've got a cricket series with myself and Kieran, joined by Adam Hollyoak. We've got the live football shows. We've got this show. We've got conspiracy theory show returning. New Unscripted Uncensored with Jordan Vucinic, one of Danny's students, and a rising star in the Cage Warriors ranks. Getting ready for his fight as well in September. And lots of other shows this week. So check out youtube.com/podcastnation. Check out at Danny Batten FS on Twitter and Instagram for the show's social media. And of course, the Ace Podcast Nation, which is the hub for all things podcast related, guests and the like. Keep an eye on that because you might, you never know what might pop up this week in regards to next week. And next week's show. But in the meantime, Danny, it's been a pleasure, my friend.
Yes. Thank you, Si, and thanks for everyone who's listening in. Another good UFC under our belt, and the big one still to come.
Yeah, and the most important thing, minimal editing for me this week because your Czech Republic internet worked on Zoom much better. And just a brief interruption from one of my children, which I can take out. Not a problem. Cheers to everyone who's downloaded. Cheers to everyone who's watched. And we'll see you next week for a new show with a all new guest. And it's going to be a good one. See you guys.